Good morning and welcome to Daylight Church Online. We're just so thankful that you're joining us this morning and hope that you have a great experience. We want to let you know that if you'll go to mydaylightchurch.com, there's a card there that says Online Church. And on the Online Church card, it'll tell you everything you need to know about being a part of our online church community, how you can get involved in small groups, how you can give financially, how you can be involved in the service projects that we do. So even if you're in Kansas or Cambodia, you can sure join us and be a part of our church. We'd like you to check it out there and introduce yourself. So go to mydaylightchurch.com and check out the online church card. Thanks. I went round and round about the title of this message today because it's not a traditional sermon. It's more like a newsletter from the pastor about his personal life. And so it's going to kind of be a little bit weird. And I thought about calling it Pastors Need Prayer, but that sounded too generalized, like I was going to preach on the reason to pray for your pastor. And that's not it. I want to talk about what's going on in my life and ask you guys to pray for me. And it feels different than like an overall, it's more personal than that. I thought about the day the pastor asked for prayer, and that kind of works. But the thing that bugs me about this whole thing, this is basically a sermon about pray for me, please. And part of the thing that bugs me about it is I recognize pastoral privilege. Like if we went around the room and we asked John or Mary Jo or Ryan, what do you need prayer for? They would have plenty to say, I would imagine. And so I recognize that I have this privilege of having a pulpit, and I get to stand in front of people and stand in front of people online and say, hey, please pray for me. And I recognize that there's a power dynamic that's weird in churches. Just even the fact that a person stands up in front of everybody week in, week out and speaks into their lives. There's a lot of power that can be manipulated and weird about that. And so I felt like this is going to be I, me, and I thought that would be a very strange name for a sermon. But I'm going to say I a lot during this sermon and me a lot during this sermon. And I'm going to do it because you guys are my family. This is like a family gathering, and I need my family to pray for me. But it also feels very strange to be up here saying, hey, pray for me as a point, like to make it the point of emphasis of a sermon or a message feels a little selfish. And then as I was processing that and how self-serving and self-centered it feels, I thought about calling it the message where the pastor acts like he's all worried about being selfish, but he isn't really all that worried about it because truthfully, he really is pretty selfish, and talking about it might make him seem less selfish in the eyes of other people, and even these slides are just taking that one level deeper, and that just felt convoluted. It's a little long, little wordy. So I thought go with alliteration, call it Pastors Appreciate Prayers, and that just seems silly, so I moved on from that to the state of the pastorate. The state of what the pastorate. So it's talking about the state of the pastor and the pastorate. I said from the beginning I was in this thing for 10 years, that when a pastor plants a church, that longevity is important for church function. And so I said, I'm going to do it for 10 years. We're coming up on our 10-year anniversary. And then I said, I'm going to reevaluate whether I'm having fun or not. And I am having fun. And I see myself doing this for a long time. But as some of you are like, great. Others feel obligated to say great, to say amen. I don't know how I feel about all that, but I'm facing some physical difficulties that make that question different now. Like, what does it mean for most of you are familiar with my post on Facebook where I talked about the fact that I have a Parkinson's diagnosis, and Parkinson's is a disease that could make pastoring difficult in the coming years, and so it does bring up questions. Now, how many years we'll get to as we talk about it. But I am facing some questions. So when we approach this 10-year anniversary, there's a new dynamic to the question of what will I do? And so I'm calling it the nameless message, in which the pastor talks about some stuff, some of which is related to his health. And that's the title of the sermon today. I finally got around to it. But I find myself wanting, it's this strange tightrope because I don't want it to be the only thing we talk about. Like in my personal interactions with all of you and with my friends and family, I don't want it to be the main thing. But I also find myself wanting to talk about it and wanting to connect over it and feeling like I don't want to be alone in it. And so that's what I'm doing today. It's weird. It's strange. It's not exactly altar call material. But I'm going to give an update on where I'm at. I'm going to talk about what it could look like moving forward, and I'm going to talk about how you guys can help. So where I'm at, we're going to start with this picture, which some of you will be able to see in the front rows and some of you won't, but this is an x-ray of my spine recently. So I have two major health issues that I'm facing. One is a spinal difficulty, and then one is Parkinson's. This is a picture of my spine, and if you see the yellow dots, they're supposed to line up. And they actually do like this and then out and down. And I was born with what's probably called a pars defect, and so I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but there's a spinal column and there's the vertebrae, and they're supposed to attach like this, right? Like this. I was born like this. I was born with one missing. And then I fractured the other one through years of volleyball and golf. And I have a compression fracture in that portion of the connecting point between the vertebrae and the spinal column. I'm not even sure I'm getting the words right exactly, but that's kind of descriptive of what's going on. And so my sacrum, or my coccyx, which is always fun to say, to quote Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite, he bruised his coccyx. My coccyx is out of line, which is so weird to say. But it's supposed to look like this, and it looks like this instead. And so I exist in perpetual pain. Sometimes they're worse than others. But you guys have noticed the stiffness. Like, people comment about it all the time. Why so stiff? And that's part of the reason why. Parkinson's is part of the reason. The spine is part of the reason. But I have a surgery scheduled for this coming Wednesday. And so they're going to do what's called a laminectomy, which is where they repair the laminate, or they cut out the laminate, which is like the bonding stuff between the bones, sort of. They're going to do a decompression, and they're going to do a spinal fusion between L4 and S1. So it's 3 segments being fused together. My downtime, this is not the big deal. So every doctor I've seen about my spine has said surgery is in your future. It's just prolonging it as long as you can, because the longer you can prolong a spinal surgery, the better your prognosis is for longevity of life. Because what happens is adjacent segment of disease sets in, and the segments above or below. In this case, there is no below, but the segments above start to go bad. And so the longer you can wait, the better off you are. However, with the new Parkinson's diagnosis, we have decided that it's better for me to go ahead and get it done now, because recovery could possibly be much more difficult in the future. And so this Wednesday, I'm going under the knife. I feel good about it. I'm excited about it. I have days where I tell my wife, today is a surgery day, meaning I'm hurting so bad today that I can hardly wait to have surgery. And then I have days where I feel like I could probably get by for another few years without. But those surgery days are coming more and more rapidly. I'm looking forward to getting this done. Recovery time, I'll be in the hospital for 1 or 2 days. And this may or may not be interesting to you or informative to you, but I feel like talking about it, and I'm the guy with the pulpit, so this is what we're going to do. 1 or 2 days. 14 weeks is my understanding of no BLT, bending, lifting, or twisting, so I can't lift over 10 pounds for about 3 months. Give or take. It could be as short as 4 weeks. It could be as long as 6 months. I can't get back in the gym for another 3 to 6 months, and so I'm actually taking some anabolics to maintain muscle mass during that time. I'm working with a personal trainer. I'm working with a hormonal doctor, working with a neuroscientist and a neurosurgeon on all this stuff, and I have a great team in place, and we're making some decisions. But while I'm away, we have a deep bench of solid people. Rusty's going to be preaching. Chris Jones is going to be preaching. And then we'll just see when I can get back in the pulpit, and I don't know when that will be. It could be 2 weeks, I'm feeling great. It could be 2 months, I'm still hurting pretty bad. And so we're just going to have to play it by ear and see. But that's something that I have to get fixed. And so I'm going to get it fixed. But that's not if that were just the thing, I would just make an announcement and say, hey, that's why I'm gone for a couple weeks. But that combined with Parkinson's is a whole different thing. So I kind of want to talk to you about the Parkinsonian pastors. And I say pastors because Rusty has been diagnosed with Parkinson's as well, which is very strange. I mean, people think we're brothers. We go out to eat and sit together all the time, and people think we're brothers anyway, but now we're both like trembling twins. And it's important to say that, so Parkinson's disease, most people say should be Parkinson's diseases because it manifests in so many different ways. I'm going to talk about some of the symptoms that you guys can expect to see possibly in the future. But some people have Parkinson's and no tremor. Some people have Parkinson's and intense tremors. Some people have cramping, some don't. Some sleeplessness, some don't. Some drooling, some don't. There's no telling. And so when you pray for me, as we look down the list of symptoms, there's particular ones that I'd like you to pray that I don't get. Yeah, the drooling would be preferable, although we'll get into the spitting Pentecostal preacher. There's something to be said for that. But everybody's experience is different. Parkinson's is essentially the death of dopamine. It's the dying off of the cells in your brain which produce dopamine. And dopamine, it turns out, is more than just a happy chemical. It affects so many functions in the human body. And so you'll see a list of common symptoms, including tremors. And it's funny to be as a public speaker because the slightest bit of anxiety, and I'm always a little bit anxious about public speaking, always. The slightest bit sets it off. And so you'll notice I'm shaking. And now I have this, like, I don't even know if I want to tell you, but like this nervous, right? You can tell when I'm nervous because I shake harder. And so it's like to stand in front of the whole world and say, hey, I'm nervous, and it's obvious to everyone is a little, it's not very exciting. But it's the rigidity that I'm having the hardest time with right now. The rigidity means everything is hard. It's really challenging to describe what exactly it's like. Like my wife asked me, how are you feeling? And I don't have the words to articulate it. Even last night we said I was having some problems with my left leg. And I just couldn't describe it. There's no describing it. It's just very strange. It's almost like your body is trapped in molasses. Like everything you do is resisted. So buttoning a shirt, putting on a jacket, that left arm is just hard. I just have to think about it and concentrate on it. It's stuff that you never had to concentrate on before. And this week I went to the post office to ship a package, and it was one of those little priority boxes, and it has little tabs and the pull-off tape, and I could not get the stupid tab in the little tab spot. And if you ever thought you didn't want to hear some cuss words in your preacher's mind, you did not want to be with me at that moment. I could not get that stupid tab in that stupid box. And this is stuff that is just wild. It's just different. And so I have to concentrate. If you see me walking across the room from point A to point B and my gait looks normal, it's because I'm thinking about my gait looking normal. It's just very strange. Sleep difficulties are facial masking. This is fun. So because of muscular rigidity, what normally would be facial expressions that would come naturally don't come naturally anymore. They're focused, they're concentrated, they're on purpose. And so if you see me smiling, there's some I'm still able to be me. I'm still able to express emotion. But if I'm staring at you, and it's less blinking too, so if I'm staring at you like this, I might be doing it because I can get away with it now that I have Parkinson's. Just stare people down. What's your problem, dude? Parkinson's, man. But don't take it personally if I don't respond to your joke. It's just the reality. It just doesn't come naturally. Sleep difficulties are common. And what happens is your brain starts running through something over and over and over. For me, I don't know why. It's Bon Jovi, Living on a Stupid Prayer. I get that stupid song in my head at night. I wake up at 3 a.m, and then that song, oh, we're halfway there. And I'm like, shut up. And it just goes over and over and over. And it can cause a lot of sleeplessness. Apathy is nice. The doctor says apathy is a symptom, and you're like, It's for real though, because I have like this sense of inner peace about the whole thing. I feel really good about all this. I know that feels difficult to believe, but I really do feel good. But I don't know if that's a symptom of the Parkinson's, because I'm like, it'll be fine. That's a symptom. Forgetfulness is a symptom of Parkinson's, and I plan on milking this one for all it's worth. The wife says, "Did you take out the trash?" Parkinson's. Did you accomplish your list? Parkinson's. The man flu is going to kick into overdrive when it comes to Parkinson's disease. Like, it's going to be bad, I can tell. Now, some of this is going to be too much information for some of you, but if we're anything around here, we're transparent. Shuffling gait, you've probably noticed that if I'm not concentrating, I walk like a 70-year-old man, 80-year-old man now. It's just part of the reality. Constipation. Everybody wants to know about their pastor's constipation, right? Which, as a side note, we just watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy again with my son and my daughter. If you watch it thinking that Frodo has constipation, it becomes the funniest set of movies of all time. Just a little side note. Now, erectile dysfunction will not affect any of you personally. What's that? If you find me grumpy, maybe you know why. They make Cialis for this, and Cialis is liquid gold, and so it all works out. And then there's the drooling, and drooling is basically caused because of difficulty swallowing. So the muscular rigidity causes difficulty swallowing, so the Parkinson's patient forgets to swallow, and multiple times monthly now I find myself choking on my own spit. It's just very strange. I was talking to Becky the other day, and you know how sometimes every now and then you spit when you talk? Everybody spits when they talk all the time. If you ever get in a bright light, you notice, you recognize how much spit gets on your food all the time, and that's a comment for another day. But I was talking to Becky, and I obviously what's it called? Scudded her, scudded her. And I said, "I'm so sorry I spit on you, but you better get used to it, because Ryan, you're not going to want to sit in the front row as I preach anymore." But I've never been a shouting preacher, so we should be fine there. There's a slowness and a dullness to life. It's really impossible to describe except to use those terms. Dementia is a possibility. A certain percentage of people get dementia and a certain percentage don't. And I've said this publicly, the day I become mean to my wife or my kids, put me in a home, man. If I ever get rude and abrasive, man, just put me away. But hopefully that's stuff that's years and years in the future, if at all. Low blood pressure can be a difficulty, sweating, urinary difficulties, lack of balance. So nobody ever dies of Parkinson's. It's not a terminal disease. They die of falling or pneumonia related to the spit thing. And it's funny, never Google your disease. It's just a bad idea, but I Googled Parkinson's life expectancy, and it's 16 years, which I'm 50 right now. But what they don't tell you when they throw out those statistics is most people get Parkinson's in their mid-60s. And so it really doesn't affect life expectancy that much at all. But balance and the spit thing. Small handwriting, autographia, I think is what it's called, is something I've noticed in myself for a couple of years now and had no context for it. I just thought I was getting lazy. But my handwriting has become chicken scratch, and that's the muscular rigidity. It's just... It takes more effort to write legibly now than it ever has. Fat fingers, you wouldn't believe how frustrating it is to send a text at this point. And some of you thought it was hard to hear from me anyway. Like you thought getting a text back from me was impossible. Well, just wait and see, buddy, how it's going to be. I find myself hitting enter, and I hit the M or the other key nearby. And then I'm trying to hit enter instead, and I hit this M key over and over and over until I have this long line of M's, and then I have to go delete. And deleting and it's just hard. Just texting, typing on a computer, all of it is just more challenging than it's ever been. Lowered vocal strength, multiple times weekly. Somebody says, "What?" Even my preaching has become subdued, according to my wife. She can tell that I'm more subdued than I once was. I keep my hands on the pulpit. I used to pace and I used to teach young preachers that the very first thing you do is own the room. When you step up, you take the room under your control, and then you release that to Jesus. You handle that with humility, and it's a great privilege to do that. But now I don't sense this this passion for like being loud. That dullness and slowness is set in. So if you can tolerate it, my sermons are probably going to be a little more here than out here. And that's just going to be the reality. And then there's forgetfulness. That can be a symptom of Parkinson's. It's one I plan on milking. That was intended to be funny. Depression can be a huge marker in Parkinson's, not only because of the disease itself and the symptoms itself make life much more challenging, but you're doing it without dopamine, which is a depression inhibitor. And so, thankfully, so far, I wouldn't say that I'm experiencing any bit of depression, but it is possible in the future. And so, just wanted to say that out loud. The progression typically goes one stage every 2 years, but one stage every 2 years is the markers are for elderly people. Rusty and I both have what's called early onset Parkinson's. Parkinson's usually manifests in your 60s, 65, something like that. The average is about 60, 65, which means there's a lot of people that don't have Parkinson's until they're like early 70s or even 75 or 80. We're both early onset people. And just for the record, it's not contagious. It's nothing in the water. It's not like we have some funky radiation going on here at Daylight Church, and so that's why both the pastors have Parkinson's. It's just a strange coincidence. But they say every 2 years it progresses a little bit. I'm seeing it already a little bit in bilateral tremors. So my left is shaking for a long time. Now my right is starting to when I get extremely anxious. That's a marker. But the goal is to slow it down. And so my good friend Quan Founder has this expression he says, or this question he asks when he wants to check in with somebody. He says, "You good?" And "you good" means how you holding up, how you doing. And what he means when he says it is, I care, how are you doing? You good? And I just want to say that I'm doing great. I know my facial masking doesn't say it. I know my shuffling gait doesn't say it. I know the rigidity of my body doesn't say it. It's like my mom always said that she was 21 in here, and she was 65 out there. I'm still very much me in my head. I'm in one of the best places I've ever been spiritually. I'm in one of the best places I've ever been emotionally. I'm doing really well. I know looking at me from the outside, it doesn't appear that way. You're just going to have to take my word for it. There's this passage in Philippians that says, "The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." I believe that I am experiencing and will continue to experience that peace that goes beyond human understanding. In this version, it surpasses all understanding. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to be faced with drooling, trimming, shaking, quivering, slow-moving, low vocal strength, possible dementia, possible depression. It really doesn't make sense to look at that list of symptoms and say, all is well. But I really am well. And I appreciate everybody asking, "You good?" We'll talk about that in a second, how often to ask and that sort of thing. But just see, this is one of those moments that feels like pastoral privilege, but I know there's a lot of people that care about me, and that helps. It helps a lot. One person over there cares about me. Thank you. It helps a lot, but I know that the people I care about, I want to know how they're doing what, and if they're doing well, I want to know it. And I just want to tell you that I am doing well. And I have a plan. So let's talk about the plan. First off, Proverbs 3 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths." That's one of the very first passages of Scripture my wife ever memorized. And I always think of her when I hear it. This is my plan. My plan is to trust. There's a bit of weirdness in that I know I'm going down someday anyway, and now I probably have a clue how it's going, and I'm kind of cool with that. I don't know if that's the apathy or not. But I just trust God. I do. And I hope you will too. I hope if anything else, this isn't a sermon. This is more like a newsletter. But I hope there's some parts in it that can help. And I just believe in whatever you're facing is you trust God. I'm going to take it one day at a time. I'm going to be thankful. I'm going to be thankful for what I have. Try not to focus on what I don't have. And so far, it's working well. But I've also always believed the axiom, trust God and lock your car doors. Someone smart said that. So I have a plan, and it's a plan that goes beyond prayer and goes beyond the metaphysical to the physical. And first one is beast mode activated. Now, I don't look like this dude yet, but I'm getting there. All the research, like anybody you listen to, I'm in support groups, I'm listening to doctors, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm reading books. Everybody says exercise kicks Parkinson's in the face. They say commonly, I have Parkinson's, but Parkinson's doesn't have me. There's bodybuilders that have been on the gold standard drugs for years that have gotten off them completely because of their bodybuilding activities. It's all anecdotal. There's no double-blind placebo-based test showing this. But movement, exercise works. And so the goal is to slow the progression of the disease, to slow the deterioration of the brain cells that produce dopamine, to maintain as many of them as possible. And for some reason, exercise does that, and exercise produces its own dopamine as well. And so I'm working really, really hard. I'm working with, and like I mentioned before, a neurosurgeon and a movement disorder specialist, and obviously Jesus and I are communicating about this. I have a good therapist, a good trainer, a doctor focused on hormone balance and body transformation. I'm going to be doing, my workouts consist of HIIT training where I get my heart rate up really high and then let it come down and get it up really high and let it come down. I'm going to be doing boxing for Parkinson's people. I'm going to be doing yoga, probably some Tai Chi. But I say all that to say that part of my plan requires time. And that's going to be part of how we move forward. The first step is getting this spine in line. Now, when they do this fusion, here's point number one where you can pray, and I'll elaborate on it in a second. Surgery of any type is anecdotally known to progress Parkinson's because it's a major stressor on the body, and major stressors cause the disease to fast forward a little bit. It's like the movie Click with Adam Sandler. You hit fast forward a little bit, and every surgery hits fast forward a little bit on the disease. And it also inhibits exercise. And so I really need this surgery to go well so that I can get back in the gym as quickly as possible to slow the progression of the disease as much as possible. So that's one point of prayer. But exercise, getting the back surgery done is step number one. Step number two are these mysterious white powders that I've discovered, which I thought was pretty exciting. It's not some of the powders that you might be imagining. Why would you even imagine those things? What's wrong with you? There's this Italian scientist that had discovered that megadosing thiamine hydrochloride, vitamin B1, seemed to be a major difference maker in the lives and symptoms of Parkinsonian people. And sadly, he passed away from COVID during the COVID pandemic, and so his research was nixed. There's other people taking up that mantle and trying to walk with it and trying to get it like professionally studied and peer-reviewed and so forth. But there's all kinds of medicine you can take. I'm doing the thiamine thing first. I'm doing some natural stuff that is going to help and has already helped. And now I have to be off of all that natural stuff for a week, and I can tell a difference already. I have to be off of it a week before my surgery, so I had to nix it all on Wednesday. But I can tell from how I feel being off of it that it is making a difference. So that's part of the plan going forward. And then part of it is medicine. There's this drug called carbidopa-levodopa, which is the gold standard medication when it comes to Parkinson's. And it's basically L-dopa. It's dopamine. It's feeding your body dopamine. It doesn't inhibit the brain cells from dying. It just fights the symptoms because it artificially produces that dopamine in you. The issue is it works for a while, then you need more. Then it works for a while and you need more. And then it works for a while and you need more. And eventually you reach doses that you can't go any higher. And so I feel like, and it also causes dyskinesia, which is, you've probably seen Michael J. Fox and other Parkinsonian people, they move like this. That's dyskinesia. That's not caused by the Parkinson's. It's caused by the the medication that's used to treat Parkinson's. So there's about a 50% chance that if I start L-Dopa, that I'll end up with dyskinesia 5 to 10 years down the line, and I would like to avoid that or prolong it as much as possible, so I'm trying to go these natural routes. Now, I will tell you this. I had a medical professional lean into me a couple weeks ago, and he said, I'm not allowed to tell you this, but marijuana does wonders for Parkinson's people. What the heck kind of church am I running?
It's a plant.
I just thought it was funny. So the day I step into the pulpit and go, dude, we're skipping right to the potluck today, man. then you know that I've taken this medical professional's advice. But I plan on following the research. I plan on watching and seeing what happens. And there's a lot of hope for Parkinson's people that the latest research is going to produce really great results. There's some surgeries that can be done. There's some stuff coming down the road that could be very helpful. I'm also taking very, very cold showers, which maybe it's more information than you wanted to know, but cold showers produce dopamine. They kick up your dopamine by about 150%. So I'm spending 3 minutes shivering in an ice-cold shower about once a day. And if I don't do it, man, I can tell a difference. If I don't do it at night, the next day is... With Parkinson's, you're going to have good days and bad days. And bad days typically follow nights when I didn't take cold showers. There's a guy named Dave Goggins, I think is his name. People call him the toughest man on earth. And he is. Just read his bylines, his bio, sorry. And you'll see. But he says, do something that sucks every day. That's my thing that sucks every day. I go in the shower, I get it hot, and then I turn it as cold as possible, and it helps. And it's horrible, but it helps. And then this is one that will impact the church, and you will see, is that I have to take this place seriously. I have to go here literally and figuratively. The number one thing to combat Parkinson's and to stem it, to keep it at bay, is exercise. The number two thing is stress reduction. And so I have to manage my stress very, very well moving forward. The more I can manage my stress, the better off I'm going to be. And with the 10-year anniversary coming up, I was planning on approaching the board about this anyway. I would like to preach less. I've already approached them, and I'm going to be preaching less in coming years. Preaching is the most stressful part of the job for me, and I love it. It's the part I love the most as well, but it's also the part that's the hardest for me, day in, day out, always having it right there over my head. I preached 37 times this year. I've approached the board and asked that I could preach, and basically the bylaws say I can just make this decision, but I'm not going to make it by myself. I'm going to preach 30 times this coming year. So I'm backing off of the pulpit. It doesn't seem like a tremendous back off, but it is going to be a big difference. And then I'm also taking a month off every summer moving forward. The church can't afford to. I have no benefits. I don't have any retirement, any medical benefits, any dental plan. I do have an expense account, so when I go out to eat with you guys, Daylight pays for it, which is really nice. They can't afford to pay me more, but we can, because we have a deep bench and quality people, afford to let me back off a little bit. That's the plan. I also heard somebody say, once you're diagnosed with Parkinson's, you ought to start crossing your bucket list stuff off today because you won't be able to tomorrow. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. I'm believing, and this is both a spiritual belief and a physical belief, like a statistical belief. I'm believing I'm going to have many, many, many years of thriving life ahead of me. I believe that. But again, trust God and lock your car doors. So Kara and I are having to have these conversations about how do we make it where the kids remember Dad now, not as I will be. And so the bucket list thing is stuff that we're starting to look at. Is the vacation we want to take, maybe taking it a year ahead of time, that sort of thing. So those are that's stuff that you can expect to see moving forward. But ultimately, this is the plan, is casting all my anxieties on God because he cares for me. I am in good hands. I can't emphasize enough how good my headspace is right now. I'm not just blowing smoke. I trust God, and God is good. So how can you help? This is the part that made me the most uncomfortable, is me standing in front of you guys saying, how can you guys help me, is what it feels like a little bit, but really that's not it. It's how can the daylight thing continue? I don't know what the future holds for me or for Rusty. Man, Rusty's killing it. Rusty is just an awesome dude that works very hard, and he and I are going to have conversations about minimizing his stress as well. But how can you help? Number one is you can pray. Scriptures say, pray for one another that you may be healed. Jesus said, when you pray, pray like this: Our Father who art in heaven, and so forth. He said, your kingdom come, your will be done. Deliver us from temptation. Give us this day our daily bread. The implication is that prayer does something real. And so I'm a believer in that. I'm not a good believer in it. I'm a bad Pentecostal, but I am a believer in it. And I believe that when you pray, it does something. So I'm asking you to pray for me, to pray for Rusty, to pray for our wives, and to pray for one another. I saw this quote years ago. I still don't know where it's from, but it really impacted the way I viewed prayer. It said, God cannot do something unless we work. He stores the hills with marble, but he has never made a cathedral. He fills the mountains with iron ore, but he never makes a needle or a jet airplane. He leaves that to us. If then God has left many things dependent on man's thinking and working, why should he not leave some things dependent upon man's praying? He has done so. We cannot suppose that God will do for us without prayer what he has promised to do for us only through prayer. Like so much at Daylight Church and so much that's connected to my history of Christianity, this idea can be wielded as a weapon. You got cancer because you didn't pray enough. Your divorce was finalized because you didn't pray enough. And so it can be manipulated and twisted. But I think there's a pure and Jesus-centered way of looking at it, is that prayer really does make a difference. It really is important that we pray. It's not just words, it does something. I have the privilege of working with a wonderful staff, Rusty and Claire. Kara is the best secretary in the world, and I get to sleep with my secretary without anybody raising an eyebrow, which is really nice. The Lyles, Becky and Paul. Paul does our music. Becky does our children's ministry. Chris Booker, Cheryl Ruckreigel and her partner C. Vicki Baumgarten, who keeps the church looking so beautiful all the time. And John Fent, who very few of you know, that keeps our grounds up during the summer. If you ask each one of them what they could use prayer about, there's serious stuff there. Like I can look through the list, and I know there's very serious stuff there. So I'm aware, again, of my privilege that I stand up here. And so I'm not just asking for a prayer for myself, but I'm asking for kind of an attitude of prayer for praying for one another. And it's not, even the leadership thing, when I say pray for your Christian leaders, even that feels gross to me. Because we could go around the room and say, what could you use prayer about? And that's why we're re-emphasizing this prayer line that we have, this prayer at daylightchurch.com and the prayer team, is if you could use prayer, we want to stand with you, and we want people to stand with you. But today I'm asking for me, and so I'm going to give you a list of stuff that you can pray about. One is healing. Like I said, I'm a bad Pentecostal. I believe, and I've seen Jesus do really like wackadoo stuff in people's lives. I've seen miraculous healings right in front of my eyes. I have an easier time believing that for somebody else than I do for myself. There's this passage of scripture where somebody comes to Jesus and he says, Jesus asks him if he believes he can be healed. He says, I believe, forgive my unbelief. And that's my pastoral confession to you, is I have a hard time getting a hold of the reality of healing for myself, and I'm asking you to do it on my behalf. I'm asking you as you pray to bend God's ear and bring me before the throne of God. Specifically, pray for good anesthesia experiences with my surgery. I've had horrible issues with anesthesia before, where my blood pressure skyrocketed or my blood pressure plummeted and I was nauseated and really, really bad experiences. So just pray for that specifically, that the anesthesia doesn't mess with me. Pray for a full and fast fusion. Really, the only way this whole fusion thing goes bad is if the fusion doesn't hold, which is a very small statistical possibility, but it is a possibility. So let's just ask Jesus to make sure that doesn't happen. It's a full and fast fusion. Pray, as you pray for healing, also pray that the progression of Parkinson's is slow, 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 slow. And ultimately, this is how I'm praying. Prayer. I've been very, very transparent about how difficult prayer is for me. I overthink everything. This is a prayer that I don't have to overthink at all. I just pray for understanding of God's love. I pray it all the time now. I just want to understand love. I want to understand what it means to love you. I want to understand what it means to love my friends and my family. I want to understand what it means to love myself. Give me that, God. If you don't give me anything else, give me that. That's something you can pray for me about. And pray for yourself while you're at it. Pray that we understand the love of God. And I'd be remiss not to say pray for Kara and Claire. When you go down that list of a drooling dude with erectile dysfunction and balance issues, and not a very fun dude to be married to, right? And again, every person's symptom is different, so I'm not saying anything about where Rusty is going to end up. Rusty is going to kick this thing in the face as well. But pray for the caregivers. And again, we asked our doctor, do we need to sell our house? Because our house has a lot of stairs. And he said, no, those are decisions that are years in the future. This thing is slow, slow, slow moving, hopefully very, very slow. Hopefully I'm standing up here in 15 years. Well, maybe not, but hopefully I'm standing up here years from now and everybody's like, does he even have Parkinson's? That's possible. Just pray that that's the reality. I have some other thoughts that I'm going to pass on. And I'm just going to ask you to pray for me, pray for Rusty, pray for the staff.